Justin here. Just wanted to touch base with you parents for a little bit and talk about life in these unique circumstances. I mean, COVID 19 has really disrupted life quite a bit. Um, and I think it's important for us to take time to process what that means, right? Anytime there's a huge disruption in life, I think it's important for us to go through the process of grieving that disruption, right? Grieving what was lost and grieving that there's now a change and there's some uncertainty that comes with that change. And if we don't take time to go through the process of grief, then we will either continue in life by operating out of a sense of denial that we will say we're okay with this and we can handle it, we'll just pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, or that everything's okay when in reality some parts of us and some parts of our world may not be okay. Or we could operate out of a sense of panic, like, oh no, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what to do with these feelings of loss or anxiety about the unknown. And so if we take just a few moments to go through the process of grief and to identify what that looks like in our lives, I think we'll be in a better place to be parents to our kids during these times, right? Because our kids also need to go through this process of grief. I know in our home, we have a student who's in high school, a student who's in middle school, and then a student who's in preschool, all the way down to that. But each of them are missing their friends. They're missing some sense of structure. They like being at home. I mean, that's a good thing, right? They like hanging out with mom and dad a little bit more. But there is this sense of need to go through the grieving process at their age appropriate levels too, right? So that obviously looks different for the high schooler and the preschooler and the preteen in middle school. So just be aware of that the same information that you are processing and the grief process that you are going through as an adult, your kids are also needing to go through that, and they need someone to give them age appropriate help in that, right? So for your older kids, maybe it's just some prompts and giving them some space to respond to you when they're ready, and in the way that works well between you and that child. And obviously a little bit more structured the younger your kids are in helping them to identify what is it that you've lost, right? The sense of normalcy, the routine, the seeing friends, and then what can we do with that, right? It's okay to grieve that, and then begin after you process what has been lost. Now you begin to process what we do with that now, right? And in the same way, also allowing them space to have an appropriate amount of expressed anxiety about not knowing what is going to happen in the meantime, right? As we move forward, there are still a lot of unknowns about how long we're going to be quarantined and how long life is going to be disrupted in that kind of way. And there is a likelihood that people that you know are going to be affected firsthand in serious ways by the spread of COVID-19. And so it's okay to have a certain amount of anxiety about the unknown, but then in the same way, we also need to then come to a place where we can say, okay, what are we going to do now that there are some things unknown? How do we appropriately plan for those contingencies? Because we don't want to live in either one of those extremes where we're just operating out of panic or we're staying in a place of denial. So with those kind of guardrails up, I think there's a lot of latitude for you to find middle ground in between that in your home with your kids. But it is very important to take time to grieve, both for yourself and then allow your kids and walk with your kids through their own process of grief and what that looks like. And then I just want to really encourage you that just like educators, the school system is having to switch up what it looks like for teachers and paraeducators and all of the staff and resources that goes into public education and private education. They're having to switch up what it looks like to come alongside families to help educate children and to help move along their academic progress. But there is a lot of creativity going on in that world. Just as they are having to switch up what it looks like to come alongside families to help see academic progress, the church is having to switch up what it looks like to come alongside parents to help see spiritual development in their kids and in the students that we normally would be seeing every week face to face and touching in with them and trying to help facilitate spiritual growth. We're still doing that, it just looks differently. And so that means that you are now the first point of contact for your kids. You always have been, but sometimes we can just allow the school system to teach our kids academically, and in some ways it can be easy to just allow the church to worry about the spiritual growth of our kids. A lot of that's coming back home, right? This is good that you are now having to think more, perhaps you're thinking more about how do I as a parent help facilitate the spiritual growth of my kids, just as I am also helping to facilitate the academic growth of my kids. And so as you're having to switch up your routines, just keep that in the back of your mind. I know we have a schedule at home that we're working on, and it's a loose schedule. I don't think it needs to be rigid, but we're including in there some spiritual formation things, right? And having more conversations with my kids at home about spiritual things. And so I encourage you to include that in your thought process as you're beginning to navigate what life is going to look like for probably a few months, is everything that I'm reading. And so I really want you to see this as an opportunity to parent more intentionally, because here's the main question that I keep coming back to, and I hope you are coming to as well, I'm sure you are, is what do I want my kids to remember about this time, right? This is a huge life-changing kind of time in our society, and our kids at their development, the stage that they're at, this is going to be embedded in their memories pretty well. I mean, I can remember from my childhood things like the Challenger explosion. I can remember 9/11. I can remember different events like that kind of grabbed the attention of the whole nation, at least, and this is the whole world is paying attention. So this is going to be a big deal that is going to stick with them. What is it that you want your kids to remember about this time? And again, keeping in mind those two extremes. Do you want them to remember anxiety and this sense of anxiousness and fear about the unknown? Do you want them to just remember a deep sense of loss? Or it's okay to have those two realities, because that's a normal part of our human experience. But what is it that you want to intentionally move them forward on from those points? And again, there's a lot of latitude in between those. And I really want to encourage you to keep at the forefront of your mind how you're pointing your kids toward Jesus. And so a lot of this is really a ripe time for us as parents to become the guides, the spiritual guides for our kids at home once again. And so I really want to encourage you to do that. I have picked up a few books that I'll be reading in the days and weeks ahead about how to more intentionally be guiding your kids through their spiritual journey. And as I glean some cool insights from these books, I will share them with you here. But I encourage you again to be thinking about ways that you can guide your kids spiritually. But it really all starts with you, right? Any time you fly on an airplane, they give you the whole spiel about if the masks come down because there's a loss of cabin pressure or whatever, put on the mask yourself first before you put the mask on someone that you're sitting next to, right? You need to be able to take care of yourself in order to best take care of the kids that are in your home. And one of the books that I've been reading even before this really took hold and has been helpful for me is A.J. Swoboda's book on Subversive Sabbath. That maybe you have extra time on your hands where you have to be intentional. I know every moment gets filled, right? But this is really a unique time where you are not having to run to soccer practice and swimming lessons and all of these things. The busyness has really slowed down, and we get to create the schedule more and more at home. And so make sure you are scheduling in time for yourself to find Sabbath, to find rest, to find your hope in Jesus, right? We're all about pointing toward Jesus. So make sure you are pointing yourself toward Jesus first, and then out of that space and out of that sense of healthy growth that you'll see as you invest in that, then you'll be better equipped to point your kids toward Jesus during this unique time. I am praying for you, parents at home, because I am right there in the trenches with you. Again, this is a great opportunity for us to really be intentional with how we point our kids toward Jesus at home. And so I'm praying that you will have the Holy Spirit infuse you with creative juices on how to do that and to guide you well as you are navigating the days ahead. I hope to see you guys soon as I offer some more thoughts and resources that may be helpful for you. Have a good day. Bye.